Hey friends, how are you today? Happy Monday to you. And I wanted to jump on here real quick, because we've entered into this glorious new year we call 2021, right? And we haven't chatted since then. Let me see if I can, I'm gonna try to take this down a little bit. There we go, that was a little too high. And so I wanted to share something with you because I feel like in the prophetic so often, like we can put out these prophetic words. Good morning, Jessica. I should say good afternoon. I don't even know what time it is. I'm so used to doing these in the morning, but it's afternoon. Good to see you, my friend. I feel like there's so many people that prophecy is really stirred up in, which I celebrate, I rejoice, that's amazing. But one of the things is, we can keep, my staff and I were talking about this today. It's like there's a lot of amazing prophetic words, and it's like we can put out this prophetic word for the year and keep putting out another one and another one and another one, or we can take that prophetic word and we can actually war with that word and ask the Lord to show us keys of how to accomplish what he's speaking. So let me back up for a minute. Every fall around September, around the Hebrew New Year, Yom Kippur, I really start seeking God for what he wants to do the next year in the Church of America. And so I began doing that probably last September, and I heard this phrase, occupy the land. It's time to occupy the land. And what's really fascinating is the timetable of that back in the fall. I was like, awesome, here we go. Here goes the church. I was so excited. This exhilarating word, like it's time to occupy the land. And honestly, I'm glad I got it back then because I feel like there's been so much turmoil and tumult in our nation, and not just our nation, but specifically in the church. There's been so much turmoil stirred up that I'm really grateful to have this word to war with, because to be honest with you, gosh, if I was just putting it out now, I don't know if I would be able to say it, but I've already put it in writing, right? So I have to keep running this thing. And so for 2021, the words the Lord gave me so clearly were time to occupy the land. And I really believe that no matter what land he's called you to, so for many of us, we're called to cities. We're here in Toledo at the Lewis House. We're really serious about going out and evangelizing in neighborhoods for city transformation, and actively doing that with prayer and worship and many different other ways. We love our city, we bless our city, and we believe that God's heart is for this city of Toledo. Let me show you something. If I can turn my camera around, there's actually this little, let me try the other way. Sorry about this. But there's this little board over here, and I don't know if you can read that, but it actually says God's heart for Toledo. And there's many different words written on that board. And so I challenge you today to ask God for his lens for your city. What does that look like? And so, time to occupy the land. Well, the thing the Lord's really been showing me this last week is there's very specific keys that he wants to give us, because, thinking about this word, like time to occupy the land. So we start thinking about Braveheart, and we think about all these war movies where these warriors go in and they're like, rah, time to go in, and it's bloody and it's a battle. And I really believe in the spirit that there's very specific weapons that the Lord has and will be given us. And I want to talk about one key to occupying the land. I've really been in Lamentations a lot. Lamentations, it's a book I've never studied or really even explored before, but recently I've been saturating in Lamentations, and it's written by the weeping prophet Jeremiah. He started prophesying around 13 years old, and in Jeremiah's day, this is so crazy, Jeremiah really stood in a land, in a nation that was completely desolated. Another nation had come in and taken over. And Jeremiah talks about the suffering, and specifically the suffering of those around around him. I don't know about you, my husband and I were talking about this weekend, but watching other people suffer is one of the hardest things. It's much more difficult, really, than even enduring your own suffering. And so Jeremiah is standing in the midst of this desolated nation, in this desolated land, and he says things like this. Get this out of chapter 2. My eyes fail from weeping. I am in torment within. My heart is poured out on the ground because my people are destroyed, because children and infants faint in the streets of the city. Hey, Mom. Good to see ya. And so what's so amazing is Jeremiah is standing in the darkest, most desolated place, intense suffering all around him. And we get to chapter 3, and he says the most amazing words that I think are so relevant to us. He says to the Lord, just so you can get a synopsis of where he is, I remember my affliction and my wandering, the bitterness and the gall. I well remember them, and my soul is downcast within me. Yet this I call to mind, okay? And therefore I have hope. You guys, that is a huge key, because Jeremiah is standing in the midst of a place where seemingly in the natural he has no hope and should have no hope. He's watching people suffer around him. He's watching babies and infants be massacred. He's watching the desolation of a nation. It's very, very intense. And he says, but therefore I have hope. Why? Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. I say to myself, the Lord is my portion, therefore I will wait for him. What is so interesting to me is that, all of us in our lives, I should say many of us, we're really walking through some very intense trials and tribulations, maybe even persecution in some parts of the world. And I really believe, it's so crazy to think about. I hear so many people say how dark America is becoming. And yes, it has grown darker, but all throughout history, there have been some very dark times of history. You think of the Middle Ages, you think of the Civil War, the Revolutionary War. I mean, we could go on and on. And so Jeremiah himself is an authority on this. I would classify Jeremiah as an authority to go, you know what? He is standing in a completely desolated nation. Like, it is dark, you guys. It is dark. Like, there's not 1 ounce of light. It's desolated. People are suffering. Foreigners have come in and they're taking over. They're ruining everything. And he says, yet, the bitterness and the gall and all of these things that I'm feeling, yet, therefore, I have hope in the Lord. Why? Because of his unfailing love for me. This version says, because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his passions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. And I really wanted to share today because, again, I feel like we put these we can put these words out, these words for the year, and they're awesome. Like, I love them all. But it's like, instead of just putting word after word after word out, what the Lord has spoke to me about is to go, let's war with this word specifically. God has said over the Church of America in 2021, it is time to occupy the land. And so I speak that over you, whether you feel it or not. It is time to occupy the land. And so we need to ask him, what does that look like? And you guys, this is a non-negotiable. One of the best weapons and non-negotiable weapons, really, warriors go in with swords and all of these things, but our weapons are in the spirit, and we have to have hope. We hope in the Lord, and we hope in his unfailing love. His love has literally consumed us. And so I want to share that with you today. as we are going in, we're going to be sharing over the next few weeks keys to occupy the land, because that's what the Lord has spoke for 2021, that it is time to occupy the land. And so I don't know what that looks like for you. I don't know what city you're in, but it is time for us as the church to infiltrate the city instead of vice versa, right? The city infiltrating the church and culture infiltrating the church. Maybe you're in business, education, whatever that looks like. It is your time. I'm decreeing and declaring this over you. So, Father, I thank you for every listener, God. And I ask, Father, that you would break any stronghold, Father, that would prohibit them from entering the land, from occupying the land in this next season. And I am asking, Father, that because of your unfailing mercy, Lord, that you would renew us every morning, God. We say, great is your faithfulness, oh God. And so renew our hearts and renew our minds. And Father, I ask that you would lead us and guide us as only you can. Father, life is in the voice, and we're listening to your voice and your Holy Spirit. Hey, I love you guys. I'm cheering you on. It's time to occupy the land.